So, welcome to the 7th session of Vedic Hymns with interpretation, meaning, and relation to STEM. So, in the last session, last month, this is the second Saturday, so it is devoted for Vedic Hymns. So, last month, we covered the 5th verse of the Purusha Suktam.
There are only 16 slokas or so in the Purusha Suktam,
That's right. Yeah. So we saw how Brahma was the first mortal who was created. And Brahma is basically Rajoguna. So he makes mistakes. And at first he was lazy, he was sloppy. And his wife Saraswati is Sattva-guna. So we talked about all that in the last session. So in today's session, we are going to cover some interesting things. So we are going to talk about what is known as the shrishti yajna. What is shrishti? Shrishti is creation. So Brahma performed the yajna, like the homam, to create the universe. Right? It can also be thought of as the cosmic yajna, because it created the cosmos by way of this yajna.
But doesn't Brahma already have the power to create?
Yeah, he derived the power through this yajna. That's a very good question. So like we talked last time, Brahma, when he was created, when he came into existence, he was the first mortal who got created, right? That means he will eventually not disappear as well.
Yeah, 100 years.
Yeah, several.
Except his day is super long.
So, so that is, so he was inactive initially. Then Vishnu tells Brahma what needs to be done. He reminds him of his duties. And he says, he tells Brahma that he should do a yajna to become active, to gain knowledge, and through the yajna to expand, continuously expand. So in the last session, we talked about expansion, right? Brahma is about expansion, expanding mind. So in this class, we are going to talk about the yajna that Brahma performed to create the universe. And as part of that, we will also see the role of seasons in the creation of the universe.
Like the 4 seasons?
The 4 seasons.
But
so the 4 seasons played a very big role in the Srishti Yajna.
Do each of the seasons have a god too?
Yeah, we'll talk about that also. So that your question leads to another question, and which is, why does the academic year start in fall?
Oh yeah.
Why does it start in fall? Do you know? It starts in fall, right?
Because it's cooler and your mind is settling down.
Is it? Does that have something to do, like summer you can do most times, like go to the pool, and summer is usually best, kind of. So we don't want to spend an amazing season doing school.
I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but there are a lot of holidays during fall, like Indian holidays during fall and winter.
All are good answers, but all these good answers are because of another fundamental reason. So that's what we are going to talk about in today's session. And then we'll look at
savings?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. And we'll also look at how to interpret this. So today we are going to cover the 6th verse in the Purusha Suktam. So we'll see how to interpret the 6th verse in relation to the current scenario, the current world. right? So those are some of the things that we are going to talk about in today's session. So let's start with the Sanskrit version of the sloka. Yat-puru-she havi-sha deva yajnamatanvata vasanto asya sitajam grishma yidha saradhavihi. So in English, yat-puru-she havi-sha deva yajnamatanvata vasanto asya sitajam grishma yidha saradhavihi. So what is yat? What does yat mean?
He or that which?
Yeah, that. Yat means that.
But isn't that? Isn't
Yeah,
that?
tat is also that, and yat also means that. So yat-puru-she. Purusha is, we all
Man.
know, God, right? So yat-puru-she. So that Purusha, havi-sha means what? So havi-sha comes from the word havis. So havis is an offering that we make into the homa. So when you visited homas, right? So where the priest pours ghee, then modakas, the food and all sorts of
Incense sticks and
incense sticks, all that offers. So that's all havi-sha. So it's an offering. So offering ground, rather, it's an offering ground of like the fire. You can think of it as the fire. So havi-sha. So Purusha is the havi-sha here. Yet that Purusha is the havi-sha.
the one that you're giving this,
Yeah.
you're paying the respects to.
Yeah, the one in which you're sacrificing everything, your ghee, your all that. So he's a receiver kind of thing. So havi-sha is that. Havis is basically yajna, the receiver of the yajna. So deva. So deva here refers to Brahma, right? Because Brahma is doing the yajna. Yajna is the homam. Atanvata. Atanvata means to do something, to perform something.
What about the M? It says
Yajnaha plus atanvata becomes yajnamatanvata. So that's called sandhi in Sanskrit. In Indian languages, it is called sandhi. You combine two words together. When you combine two words together, some transitions happen. Those transitions are called sandhis. So when you combine yajnaha and atanvata, it becomes yajnamatanvata. Then vasanta. What is vasanta?
It's a ragam, isn't it, in Sangeeta?
Yeah, but fundamentally, what does vasanta mean? Even before the raga was invented?
Music?
No. So did you hear about Vasantotsavam? Or
Is Vasanta like a flower?
that's the season when flowers bloom.
Oh, spring.
Spring. So Vasanta is spring. Asya.
Him? Or
Yeah.
wasn't it him or his?
Yeah. Yeah, sort of like that. Asit. Asya asit. Asya asit. Asit means become.
Then does
Became.
the name Sita mean the one who became?
No. Asit. Asit means to become. Asit ajam. Ajam means so this is also a common word in Indian language. Ajam. In Telugu, there is a saying, Agni ki ajam posinattu. That means offering ghee to the fire. Agni is fire.
Ajam is ghee.
Agni is ghee. Ajam is ghee. So Ajam is ghee. And then Grishma. What is Grishma? Grishma Rutau. Did you hear Grishma Rutau? Okay, Grishma is summer. Grishma idmas. Idmaha means what? Idmaha. So idmaha
Fall?
is
Autumn?
like to become the twigs used for sacrifice, the fire, the wood and the twigs used for the for the homa. And then what is Sharad?
Sharad is a name, isn't it?
Sharad is a name, that's right. But where does a name come from?
A village?
No,
I mean, no, not right. Sorry.
Sharad. So did you hear Sharada?
The name?
Sharad. So Vasanta is,
Spring.
Grishma is,
Oh, summer. And then Sharad would be fall or winter.
yeah, fall. Sharad is fall. Havi-hi, we already covered. Havis,
The
the
fire.
yeah, the fire. So what does it mean? With the Purusha as the sacrificial fire, that is the homa, and the Deva, who is the Virat or the Brahma, continued the yajna. So yajna is the shrishti yajna. The yajna that is being here referred to here is called the shrishti yajna. Shrishti means creation. So it's the sacrifice for creation. Yajna for creation. Yajna for creation.
Why isn't there a winter?
Those are the three seasons that were described in this verse. Winter is not. Winter can be considered as part of Sharad Ritav, right? Somewhat.
It's cold.
Fall and winter go together.
Is there another sloka that describes winter?
No. And then in the second line, spring was created as the clarified butter. So the ghee that you pour into the homa, that is spring. And summer was created as a fuel.
What do they mean by fuel? Like kindling?
Samida. No, fuel is the wood and the twigs that you offer for the fire to burn. So that is summer. And autumn was created as the havis,
The fire.
the actual offering, the sacrificial offering.
Wait, but wasn't the Purusha also the
The
sacrifice?
Purusha is the receiver of all the offerings.
Oh, havi-hi and havi-sha.
Yeah. And the fall season was created for as the offering itself. So
How did they find out that spring was from the butter and summer was from the fuel and autumn was
no,
from
they did not find out. This is the creation of the universe. So Brahma created spring so that it works as the clarified butter in the homa. He created summer. Remember, he is doing a homa now.
Yeah.
So he needs butter. So for butter, he created spring. For summer, for the fuel, that is the wood and the twigs, he created summer. So summer is actually the wood and the twigs. And the offering itself, when he actually offers, Brahma offers things to the Purusha, that is autumn.
Then why didn't you make them winter?
Winter and autumn are somewhat together, right? So
We
that is
made
the
it.
process of yajna. So in the yajna, you put butter, you put fuel, which is wood and twigs, and then you actually make the offering.
Is that
So-
why autumn is one of the most important times? Because it's the entire offering.
Yeah, we'll come to that. So this is how the universe was created by Brahma. So he was offering to the Purusha. So this is all. This is not, as you can see, it is not real offering. It is not real homa. He's not going to put up a fire and then do all that. So this is a. See, that is why Brahma is expanding mind. So he's all mind, right? So this is not real fire. This is not real butter. This is not real this thing, twigs and wood. This is just mental, meditating. He's meditating. He's mentally doing the yajna. So
If he is mentally doing that, then why does he need to actually get butter and everything?
Yeah, that's right.
He-
So it's all mental. Brahma is just expanding mind. There's nothing like Brahma is just expanding mind. Bra is expansion. Man is mind. So Brahma is just mind, the universal mind. So it is very abstract, right? All these concepts, it is even more abstract than math and some of the science topics, right? STEM. So Brahma is just expanding mind. Everything is in the mind. So he is doing this yajna conceptually, not physically.
What does conceptual?
Conceptually means it's a concept. It exists in the mind. So conceptually, he's doing all this yajna, the shrishti yajna, in the conceptually, not physically. And in the concept, the receiver of the yajna is Lord, the God, Vishnu, right? Narayana. And the butter that he's offering is the spring, the season called spring. And the firewood and the twigs are the summer. And the actual offering is happening in autumn.
So is the butter in somewhat relation to spring and the twigs in somewhat relation
Yeah,
to
I'll
summer?
come to that. Yeah, that's a good question. So how do we interpret all this? So what does this mean for our day-to-day lives? So that is what we're interested in, right? We just don't want to think, just know the concepts and then without application, it doesn't make any sense. We have to learn the concepts only to apply, right? So we have to see how all this ties together into our day-to-day lives, right? So first thing to note is that the entire cycle starts with the season spring, right? Even in real life, it starts with spring.
Doesn't it start with autumn or winter?
No, it starts with spring, right? Spring is the beginning of life.
Oh.
Your leaves come up, your grass grows, everything is green in spring or in other seasons.
Spring.
Yeah, so that's when the life starts. The cycle starts with spring and everything blooms. So it is the most productive season. And that's when offerings like the butter are created.
But then why does the year start in winter?
Yeah,
January.
I'll tell you.
The Hindu New Year starts in
Yeah, exactly.
Spring.
Good.
Oh.
See, the Sanatana
Exactly.
Dharma New Year starts, according to Sanatana Dharma, the New Year starts in spring, not in January.
Oh, right.
Ugadi. So that's a good point. So the spring, the New Year and the spring, the life cycle itself starts in spring. And so in spring, everything blooms and the grass grows, grass is green, cows eat grass, and they give milk, and from milk comes the butter, right? And the butter can be used for the homa. So in that sense, spring is working like the butter in the conceptual homa, right? Because it is producing butter. So spring is like the butter in the homa. And then in summer, what happens? So the grass, the twigs, and the wood, they all dry up, right? They lose their moisture. And then when they lose moisture, they become their exactly useful for as a firewood. Because when they have moisture, they don't burn, right? So the wood and the twigs have to lose moisture to burn.
Which is what happens in summer because it's so hot.
Exactly. So Brahma is using summer as the firewood, right? So that is the so summer is basically the fuel for the yajna, and that's when you get all this fuel, the firewood for the yajna. Now the next season is the fall season. So what happens in fall?
All the leaves turn different colors. They start falling. It gets cold. And it's like a fresh start almost.
Right. So all that was generated goes into the fire. Destruction. Right? Leaves die.
It's almost like the yugas, except there's 3 instead of 4.
Yeah.
Right? Because in Satya Yuga, everything gets created. And then in Kali Yuga, everything gets destroyed.
Yeah. So everything happens in a cycle, right? So this is the shrishti cycle. And the shrishti cycle revolves around the seasons. So in the fall, like you said, leaves fall, days become shorter, energy is low, mood is submissive. Your mood, and when the energy is low, you're not jumping around. Your mood is in a more receptive. You're ready to listen. When your energy is high, then you might resist and you might like to do something else and all that. But when your energy is low, your mood is submissive.
So that's why school starts in autumn. So we actually listen and don't jump
Yeah,
around.
Wait. So that is a time when sattva guna prevails. The energy is low, the mood is submissive, and you are very receptive. So those are the characteristics ideal for sattva guna to prevail. So the sattva guna, the right time for sattva guna is the fall. And Brahma is using the fall season for actually doing the offering. So that's when everything goes to the god. The life in the leaves and the life in the energy in the universe, it's all absorbed by the god.
Did while Brahma was meditating, do you think while he did the butter part, and while he created spring, that time became spring, and then when he was adding the twigs, that time became summer?
Yeah.
And that exactly at that time?
Right. That's what is the idea. So Brahma is making butter, that is spring. Brahma in his mind, in his concepts, is making butter. That is what is called spring. And he's making twigs. That is what is called summer. So that's why he's creating the universe. So fall is just the right time and situation to gain knowledge, right? Because energy is low, your mood is submissive, right? And that is why Goddess Saraswati is called Sharada. Goddess Saraswati is also known as Sharada because she is the goddess of Sharad Rutau. Sharad Rutu is
Goddess of fall or
no,
autumn.
Rutu means season. Sharad means fall or autumn. In India, they don't call fall; they say autumn.
Yeah, they say it too, but
Yeah. So Saraswati Devi is the goddess of the autumn season, the fall season. So that's why she is called Sharada. And that is the reason why you have Aksharabhyasams in fall, right? You
I
start,
thought it was just when you were born,
no,
like a couple of weeks after you were born.
no. Aksharabhyasam is done in, and there are ways to do it. So Aksharabhyasam is typically during one of the days of the Navaratris, during Dasara. One of the days is devoted to Saraswati, and that's when you do Aksharabhyasam. And that is really the reason why the academic year starts with fall, Sharad. So it doesn't start with the new year, it doesn't start in spring, but it starts in fall all over the world because of this. I mean, some people, if you ask some people, they might say, oh, it is because the government of United States passed a law in some 1880. It's called the 1880 Education Act. And they thought that the kids need to be available for farming and all those things. That is the reason why the education starts in fall. But why would it start in fall everywhere around the world? Why only in US if it is just the Education Act? Because that is the nature, that is the power of we were created based on certain guidelines, and we have to follow those guidelines through our lives. You cannot resist it. Sooner or later, you have to fall in line with the guidelines with which we were created. And we were created with using these guidelines. This verse basically gives the guidelines based on which the creation came into existence.
But why does school start in fall in only the USA?
It starts off.
No, even in India, it starts in fall.
Well, some places it starts in July. I know that. Someone told me.
Yeah, July. It starts in July, but July is like
Just 1 month before fall.
yeah, it's
August is fall, right?
yeah,
It is?
yeah, it is pretty close to fall. So that is the reason. That is the main reason why. I mean, if some countries don't start in fall, then they're not doing the right thing. Because that's when your mind is the most receptive. Fall semesters are usually the most productive semesters, I have observed. So, so sooner or later, everything in this world has to fall in line with these principles with which the universe was created. What we are looking at in this sloka or the verse, they're only metaphors. They're the whole verse here you are seeing on the screen is just metaphorical. So these are the metaphors describing the nature of life, our duties, and our guidelines. So we have to fall in place sooner or later. We need to live in accordance with how we were created.
Why did the world choose spring to be in April? Or March?
No,
Because Brahma did meditation.
somebody chose April to be in spring. It's the other way
Why?
around.
They just
Why?
wanted to call it April.
No, we don't know why they. That's a different reason, right? So you know the reasons for the months and all that stuff. The Roman calendar, You studied it in history, I believe, right? So that is a different reason. But spring actually starts, see, the year start in different times, but spring always starts certain time, right? So Roman calendar starts in sometime differently, and some other calendar starts sometime differently, right?
Yeah.
But the spring always starts at that particular time. That's it. So spring is, the seasons are supreme. The years that you come up with are artificial. The years that you came up with are artificial. And fortunately, Sanatana Dharma starts on spring. Right?
Lunar New Year is also around spring, right? Spring or fall?
Yeah, lunar New Year is also around spring. So that is the power of our Sanatana Dharma. Our Sanatana Dharma laid out, I mean, it discovers really profound principles based on which the life should run, and the life is running currently. If you don't fall along these principles, then it could cause suffering. So this is all metaphorical, right? So what does this Purusha as a sacrificial fire, what does that mean? It means that everything we offer is to the Purusha.
And everything we do should be devoted or to, like, in Purusha's favor, right?
Right. Like we studied in Bhagavad Gita also, right? All our actions should be sacrificed or submitted to the Purusha. We own nothing. Nothing is what we are doing. It's all because of him, and we are just offering it back to him. So that is the lesson or the metaphor from the first sentence of the verse, right? So we need to offer everything to the Purusha, because that's how we were created. We were created because Brahma was offering the homa to the Purusha. So we have to do that to fall in line. And the next thing is, the next observation is, of course, the spring we already talked about. Spring is when it's right time for education, for all the sattva guna things. Saraswati Devi is embodiment of sattva guna. We talked about it last time, right? Brahma is rajoguna, Saraswati is sattva guna, right? So everything sattva guna, fall is the right time. And everything rajoguna, spring is the right time, right? Because you are creating, and the whole thing starts in spring. So the action should start in spring. So you acquire knowledge in fall, and you start your action in spring, right?
So one thing I don't understand is, we talked about how Brahma is mind. He's like a jnana yogi, right? But then when he creates stuff, isn't he like a karma yogi? Because creating isn't in the mind, it's very much action, isn't it?
Yeah, it is action. That is why he's rajoguna.
A mix of both
He's
jnana
rajoguna.
yogi and karma.
Yeah, for rajoguna you need mind, right? Action stems from the mind. All action stems from the mind. Whereas ordinary mortals like you and me have to actually do the action with our hands and with our limbs and all that. Brahma doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to use his limbs and make a person with skin and bones. And he doesn't have to do that. He just has to focus, and with his meditative powers, he can create the universe. So that is about, so we talked about spring, then summer. Next is the summer, right? So summer, there is a saying in English, we need to make hay while sun shines. Did you hear that saying anytime? You never heard that? Make hay while sun shines. So if you search the internet.
Is it because we do a lot, like people do a lot of farming work in summer because in autumn they have to harvest it?
See, make hay while the sun shines. It's a very famous quotation. Why do you say make hay while sun shines? So what does it mean? So literally what it means is that you need hay, right? What is hay?
Like grass,
Right,
dried grass.
right, dried grass. You need dried grass. So when can you make the dried grass?
In the summer when
In the
everything's
summer,
dry.
only thing, right? But when do you need hay? Throughout the year.
Everywhere, every time.
Yeah, every time. So, but summer is there only
Few months.
a few months. So you need to make hay only in those few months for the rest of the year.
Then
Right.
what do they eat in summer?
What?
Oh, never mind.
Last year's supply.
Yeah. So, so that is a very profound principle which is ignored by some of the laws that the US government actually has passed. So the US economy and the US government is heavily focused on the current day. It doesn't think too much about the future. In fact, I recently published an editorial where I highlighted this, and it became very popular. Actually, if it was translated into Chinese also. Epoch Times. So if you see that, see, oh, this one, Epoch Times. So if you click on this, and
What does epoch mean again?
so if you translate this, right? Why is it not showing up in translation? It should show translate somewhere, right? Okay, translate this page. So epoch is, see, it is called famous column when it is translated. So it became popular. So what I said is savings. Both the country and the family need to be aware of savings.
Preparing for the
in
future.
English, it was different. Yeah, to prepare for the future. So in English, it was different. In English, it was, should the US Constitution to be amended? So this was what it was in English. But the Chinese, should the US Constitution be amended to limit future borrowing? So, so this is what I wrote. And when it got translated to Chinese, it became both the country and family need to be aware of savings. Because see, that's, they realize the importance of that. I titled the article like this, but they changed it to what suits best for their readership.
Because they don't use the US Constitution.
Yeah.
Right?
So that was a primary point. So the US Constitution, the US law ignores that, the need for savings, which is really unfortunate. So we cannot see, we need to make hay for while the sun shines in summer. So we need to, what that means is that we need to save for the future. We need to save the hay that we make in summer for the remaining year, right? So the current law ignores that. The current US law ignores that in many ways. The
But
culture also ignores it.
shouldn't we follow that rule in all of the year? Because there are specific things that can only be done in autumn.
Exactly. That's what is my point there. So savings is not just in summer or winter. It should be year round. And you save for the future. This is just a saying. This is just a simile. Make hay while sun shines. But it has a very profound concept behind it. And the profound concept is that you need to think about the future. So we ignore the future or the past at our own peril. I mean, you should not be too worried about the future or the past, but you should still consider the future and the past. See, Sanatana Dharma means eternal
Eternal duty.
duties, something that has existed forever. So that is the meaning of Sanatana, timeless. So that is our past. Unfortunately, today we are ignoring that Sanatana Dharma. Nobody knows this. How many people in the whole world know the meaning of this? Even know that there is this kind of a verse.
Not many.
0.0001%. And how many of those people who know this know the meaning?
Even less.
Yeah, and how many of those who know the meaning know the correct interpretation? And how many? Yeah, and how many of those who know the interpretation are actually implementing it in practice?
Basically nobody.
Probably zero, right? Which is very unfortunate. We are ignoring. I mean, some of the things fortunately fell in place, like the education starting in fall and all that stuff. They are in place. After quite a bit of struggle, though. See, it took until 1880 for the Education Act to become a law, and that's when the school started in fall. But until that time, it was different. So after struggle, a lot of struggle, we are aligning with the nature, the way that God created us. But why do we have to struggle? If you already know the Sanatana Dharma, we don't have to struggle, right? In Bhagavad Gita, there is a sloka. It says that if your actions are not backed by knowledge, then suffering results. Your action should always be backed by knowledge. So we lost the knowledge. The knowledge is all there in the Sanatana Dharma, in the Vedas, everywhere it's there. But we lost track of it. We became obsessed with the future. We became obsessed with the present. Actually, not even with the future, but with the present. That we ignored our glorious past, all the Sanatana Dharma. And then the result is suffering. People are suffering for various reasons. See, the Epoch Times realized the importance of future savings. I mean, the people reading Epoch Times, it became famous, right? That article became famous. So they are understanding. But because of the lack of focus on future, they are struggling. The people are struggling. See, the law caters to only the current day. Your income is $1,000 a month. So $3,300 you pay to the government, some $300 you pay to the state, and all that stuff. And then $200 you pay to this thing. So the $1,000 is distributed among the government, the kids, everything. So where is the plan for future?
No.
I mean, the government is mandating 20% to be given to the kid's mother, basically, right? But what about the future? The kids have to still go to college, right? So it doesn't talk about the future. And the parent who is earning this $1,000 has to live during his retirement also, right? He cannot die the day he stops earning,
Yeah.
right? He doesn't consider all those things. So that is we are doing it, and because of this law, many bad things are happening, and that is what I tried to highlight in that article. Some of which was accepted, some of which I had to remove because of the word limit and all that. But so that is the point there. So our Sanatana Dharma gave us ways to live successfully, happily, forever. But we are ignoring it. We are ignoring the glorious past, and we are doing it at our own peril. So we were created through sacrifice, right? That's what this sloka is saying. We were created by means of sacrifice. So what does that mean? Sacrifice is supreme. The goal of our life is to sacrifice, not to accumulate, but to sacrifice. And what are people doing today? People are accumulating, they are not sacrificing. Absolutely no sacrifice. So you do a little bit for someone, out of the way, you say, oh my God, my hands are hurting, my legs are hurting.
And then you demand something back.
Yeah, you demand something back. You accumulate. But the real purpose of life is sacrifice, because we were created through sacrifice. Sacrifice is supreme. Everything in the life cycle finally leads to sacrifice to the God, to the Purusha. And then what are you going to do with the body?
Leave it.
Leave it, sacrifice it, right? You sacrifice it to the God. So why do you have to wait till the end when the body is forcefully taken away from you? You could make it voluntary, right? The whole thing can be made voluntary. Even giving up the body can be made voluntary. So that's the reason why in the olden days, Shirdi Sai Baba and all those people, they used to voluntarily give up their body. So, the meaning of that is that this life is meant for sacrifice, not for accumulating. So we have to live for others. First thing is you have to see God in others. And then when you see God in others, you feel like sacrificing. You should sacrifice to the God in the others. See, Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi, they all sacrificed.
They devoted their whole life to helping others.
Yeah, Mother Teresa devoted all her life. She saw God in others, and she followed the principles with which we were created. Sacrifice, sacrificial. Life is basically a sacrificial homa, because that's how it was created. Life was created as a sacrificial fire. So all the inputs that we take are meant to output something useful. That should be the goal, right? So every system needs to be fed. There's no doubt about it. We are people, we need to be fed. But we need to feed in, just the right amount of things. Accumulating, keeping on accumulating is not going to help. So same thing in machine learning also, right? So you feed the machine learning data, just the right data you need to produce the right kind of results, right? So we saw how that principle really is very useful, right? So last time we talked about in the last session, I think we talked about various applications of machine learning, right? Did we talk about We talked about the hospitals and all that, right? Did we talk about the climate? How machine learning is used for climate?
No.
So machine learning plays a big role in climate studies also. So in what way? Oh, sorry, I need to share the screen. So machine learning, what is happening is basically you feed in data and then it produces the results that you want. You create value. So where does the data come from? So the data can come from by observing and monitoring. The data can come from understanding.
So evaluating.
Yeah, evaluating, predicting.
But doesn't the machine learning predict it?
Yeah, that's how we create value. Wait a minute. So we have a number of applications. Actually, it's both ways. So there are a number of applications like energy efficiency and intelligence, smart farming, and all that stuff. So those are all the applications. And using the machine learning techniques on this big data, we generate value. Yeah, like you said, value in terms of predicting, optimizing, and all that stuff. So the study itself is called applying machine learning like algorithms to the study of climate. It's called climate informatics. So ACIS stands for Applied Climate Information System. So this is the happy marriage of climate science and data science. So like in this instance, this is from a paper, research paper written by somebody, Chen and Satyaraj. So they collected a lot of data for many years, 1946 to 2015, which is like 60, 70 years of data, right? And then from the data sets, so they grouped the data sets as annual data set, monthly data set, and
what does TEF stand for?
TEF stands for threshold exceeding frequency. So this is the critical data which is exceptional,
Like
which is not normal, the outliers, right? So they used a lot of clustering algorithms. Remember we talked about clustering? So they used a lot of clustering algorithms to cluster the data and look at the patterns in the data, climate data. So that is exactly what they are doing. They are using unsupervised machine learning to see the patterns in the data. So that is one area of climate informatics. And then the other area machine learning is being used is for human rights. So what is human rights? Can you give some examples of human rights?
Like
The right.
Like not being slaves, everybody has equal
exactly.
respect.
So do you know of any examples of how the human rights can be broken, violated?
By taking somebody as a slave, by discriminating based on factors that you're not allowed, like that are impossible to change, racism.
So how can machine learning help in such things?
Can it help enforce the law, like be almost like a robot police officer?
No, that is far-fetched. We are not there yet, but there are other ways to do that. So for instance, how do you determine, so these are all the human rights violations, like child labor, employing children for jobs on the work sites. So that is human rights violation. Then police violence. So police cannot go beyond certain limits to get the situation under control. They have their own limits. So if they exceed the limit, that's a human rights violation. And similarly, refugees. Refugees are people coming from other countries. They are fleeing their countries because of.
That's not allowed?
So that is allowed, but sometimes they are not treated well. Refugees are not treated well. So refugees also come under human rights violations. And then child soldiers. See, some countries, they are using children as, I don't want to go there, but they are using them as soldiers, and they're using for bad things. So all these can be detected from the pictures, right? So if you look at here, so like here, you see two kids carrying some heavy weights. Similarly, police violence. You can see that the police is kicking somebody there, right?
Yeah.
And then they're dragging somebody and they're forcing somebody. These are not very fair, right? And similarly, refugees. There are a lot of refugees in these pictures. And then child soldiers. So these are all children. You can easily make out from their faces. So these are, you can make out human rights violations from the pictures, right? So fortunately for us, machine learning is able to process the pictures automatically.
So it's basically telling you what's child labor or what's a violation and what's not?
Yeah, remember my iPhone is able to detect my face. Same way it can detect child labor. Like if it notices a child carrying a heavy weight in a construction setup, then it might indicate child labor. And similarly, in a machining setup, maybe in a factory or something, there's a heavy equipment being operated by a child. So it can detect all those kind of things. So the way it's done is you feed to the model a bunch of training pictures meant for training. Remember how we trained the GAN, generative adversarial network?
Yeah.
So same thing, we feed it a number of pictures. We label these pictures as child labor, and then that becomes the training set. And then when you give test set with new images, the machine learning algorithm, in this case, it's called convolutional neural network. It will extract the features and then train a support vector machines classifier. We talked about support vector machines, right?
And then it'll classify it.
Then it will classify whether there is child labor within the pictures or not.
Isn't that kind of like the police?
Not police, right? This could be like someone like us also, right? So instead of this classifier, it could be you. I mean, that's what we did just now, right? We looked at these pictures and then we classified them as child labor. So it's not necessarily child police acting like police, but yeah, it will help police to catch such things. And when the police themselves are not doing the right thing, it works as the watchdog.
An unbiased watchdog.
Yeah, an unbiased watchdog. So that's how machine learning is helping in catching human rights violations. So another example is search for specific sounds within videos. So so you are told that there was a death the police receives a call that there was a shooting in some location. And that location was monitored by a, what do you call that?
Camera.
Security camera. Right? But these days, security cameras are there everywhere, right? You know that, right? So there's no. So you come to know that the police comes to know that there is a violence that happened there. There's a shooting that happened at that location, and then you are given the whole day's video. The police is given the whole day's video. So ordinarily what they have to do, they have to watch the entire video for like 24 hours or whatever. Or even if there's a time frame given, 3 hours, 4 hours, they have to watch the entire video to find out what exactly happened at that time. which is very time consuming, right?
Yeah.
Instead, the machine learning model can search for the exact location of the gunshot and then bring the video exactly to that location, maybe a couple of minutes here and here or there, so that the police can see exactly what happened at that time frame. So interestingly, I explained this application to some of my students, and they are actually working on this project now.
Making.
They're writing machine learning programs to detect a gunshot sound in a given video. So the next application is agriculture. So this is a very big area. So there's something called a smart farm vision. So you use drones, you use internet, and you get collect data from all sources, combine it all together to make sure that your crop is growing efficiently.
So like basically it uses the generative and discriminative
Yeah, that is just one way. That is just one way. The other way is just classification or prediction. So you can predict the moisture in the soil, right? Various other things. So machine learning is being used like that. Agriculture is really going high tech these days. And then smart cities.
Oh, we talked about these before one.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
everything
that's right.
is controlled by robots.
Right.
Cars and
yeah, smart cities.
Because robots make less mistakes than humans do.
Yeah. So you collect data from all the homes everywhere, from the roads, streets, whatever is possible. Like in this case, it's on the Golden Gate Bridge, for instance. The data from that is all being fed into the cloud. And then you run machine learning on the data and generate some predictions, some classifications to better control the devices on the in various places. So that is how machine learning is used for smart cities. But there's one thing common to all these applications, and that is the methodology. In all these applications, there is a domain expert and there's a data science expert. So in climate informatics, it was the climate expert, environmental engineers. So when I was applying for masters, actually slightly a few years before that, environmental engineering was in high demand in the United States because people were very focused on environment. So, environmental engineers and other climate scientists, they are the domain experts. What is the domain here? Climate. So they are very good in their domain. And then there is a data scientist, in this case, Andrea. So they know a lot about machine learning. They know data science, how to apply machine learning models and all that. So they handle all machine learning related stuff. And these guys handle all the domain related stuff. That means generating the data, understanding the processes, and determining what is important. All that stuff is handled by the domain expert, and all the data science related aspects are handled by the data science scientist. So together they come up with an algorithm and do all that stuff. So this is a common direction for any machine learning application, right? So that's how machine learning is being used these days to solve lots of problems. And if you notice, machine learning follows a lot of abstract principles that are given in the Sanatana Dharma. a lot of things that happen in machine learning are actually concepts enunciated in the Sanatana Dharma. So if we focus on Sanatana Dharma, we can probably come up with newer and newer methods to make life better for us. Okay, so with that note, let us conclude with our usual prayer. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amrutangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Sanmangalani Santu. See you next.